Hey guys, welcome back to Insurance Isn't Boring. Rolling episode 4 here, back with my lovely co-host Elijah Corujo. I think we were all in different locations last time. I think Elijah's back in Wilmington, and I'm actually in Peru. So we're looking forward to getting into a little bit about mindset, holidays, getting the year started, and we'll just kind of let things flow. Um,
Mm,
so, I mean, Elijah, I know that as we were wrapping up the year, and in the last episode, you'd mentioned, hey, I was going to do 25K by this point, and then my year was over.
yep.
Did you hit that? When did you call it a wrap for 2024? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Mm. One of the beautiful things about being self-employed, especially in insurance, is we can control our income essentially by making a certain amount of sales. And about midway through December, I started thinking about, all right, when do I want to wrap up for Christmas and New Year's? And I mean, previously I've run appointments during the week of Christmas. There have been numerous agents in our company who've had monster months, the month of December. And you kind of have, I feel like, two camps of people. You've got one group of people who assume that people aren't wanting to meet around the holidays for insurance, and they decide to take a whole week off or a couple weeks off. And then you got another camp of people who realize it's a holiday, not a hollow week, and they just go hard. And I don't know what it is about December, but October, November, December are the biggest months of insurance sales, at least for our company. And so I hit my goal, told myself I wanted to hit 25 grand. And then whenever I hit that in December, I'd be done. I hit it week 3, so maybe about a week before Christmas. And I was going to be done, but I had a couple referrals call me. So I
I was
still,
gonna say, I think you
yeah.
went a little over 25.
I did. I had a family call me the Monday before Christmas Eve. So the day before Christmas Eve, but it was a Monday, and I ended up writing a couple policies that got issued and paid quickly. So I think I finished December at like 32,000 for the month,
Heck yeah,
and kind of just been taking it easy. I like getting reflective at the end of the year and
yeah.
taking time to, I think it's important to audit your activity and look at your numbers and see what worked, what didn't, and then use that as kind of like a base to make changes going into the new year. So yeah, it's been good, dude. Been good. I know you're abroad. We're recording internationally because you've been on vacation the past couple weeks, traipsing it up, riding dune buggies in Peru and hiking Machu Picchu. Dude, for the people out there doing what we do, one of the cool perks about it is we get to control our schedule, but we get to travel a lot too, which is awesome. And you're on vacation with family, dude. What have you been up to? What have you been doing, man? I've been selling insurance. You've been sending me pictures sitting on top of dune buggies in the desert. Like, what are you up to, man?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on it a little earlier. It's cool. Like previously, like prior to being in the insurance business, I would have been pretty stressed because my dad's big on experiences. Like in high school, if I wanted an Xbox for Christmas, he'd be like, "Nah." But he likes to do these big trips, and so super grateful that he likes to do that because as I've gotten older, I value that more as well. So yeah, I've been in Peru for about a week and a half now, and I didn't have to ask for any time off. My upline, Mark, as we talked to the other week, was actually, excited. He's texting me. He's like, send me pictures. And the coolest part is that this business has continued running while I haven't been here.
Mm,
So I also worked up until the day before Christmas Eve. Actually, that was when I stopped as well. I
nice.
helped a family, and then she ended up getting approved the day after Christmas, which was the day that I got to Peru. So I ended up getting a
Mm,
nice deposit then. A couple days later into the trip, I don't think we've talked about the FIF reset program before, but I
yeah,
referred a client that I helped with mortgage protection to one of our advanced market specialists, Betsy Barr. She's an absolute wizard with debt free life. So she helped a family that I helped protect their mortgage. She helped them set it up to pay it off faster. And I got taken care of in doing that. So then I got another deposit, and then I had a couple agents write policies throughout the week as well. So to anyone listening, if you'd like to make money while you're on trip and not in the conventional 9 to 5, I had to ask for PTO, get back. Like I wasn't working, and the deposits were rolling in, more than paid for my portion of this trip.
Mm,
Um, and yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
just so nice to be able to actually turn off and relax.
Yeah.
And to your point, I've also done a lot of reflection of like, you know, 2024 was my first full year full time in the industry. And I made more progress than I think I had given myself credit for, but I hadn't slowed down enough to think about that.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just so excited about 2025. Like, dude, we're so young in this industry, and I think that more and more people are starting to get tired of having to ask a boss for PTO and like worry if they're going to get in trouble for going and working out, after their lunch. And I just, I think maybe we should get into some goals for 2025. And I know you've got
Dude.
big goals. Just kind of sharing with the people, like, what is it that we're running at?
Yeah. I uh I like that a lot. I used to be the kind of guy who was a bit overly ambitious. I'd set my goals for the following year like months in advance, like November and December. I'd have a super clear vision, and I'm a bit of an overachiever, and what I mean by that is I'll set too many goals and not hit them, or I'll be too broad with what I'm focused on as far as my goals, and it can sometimes be like a double edged sword because it gives you something to run towards, but also if you don't hit your goals, you kind of reinforce a pattern of not hitting it, or you get down on yourself and be like, oh
Yep.
man, I didn't do enough here. But I was looking at my numbers, and so in 2023, I did a deep dive in my numbers, and realized that I sat with an average of 8 families a week, Xander. I was running part time numbers, basically.
Yeah.
And in 2023, I sold 350 grand. And at that point,
Not
too,
bad for a part-time
I know,
part-time
I
job.
know. I got lucky, bro. I got lucky. And
Not
at
big
that
time.
time too, in 2023, I had a couple agents on my team. I wasn't like fully just selling. And so this year, I said I'm going to bring that number up. Like I'm going to focus on my appointments. And so the two ways you can do that are buy more leads and make more calls. Or you have a team of people where you're kind of duplicating your efforts, because if you got 10 agents all running in the same direction, they can run way more appointments than you can by yourself.
Right.
And so my target was 15 appointments per week, and I haven't. I did a bad job of tracking my numbers like really strictly, but I sat with an average of about 10 or 12 families a week. Now some weeks I sat with 18, some weeks I sat
Hmm.
with 15, some weeks I ran 9, but on average I ran about 12, and ended up finishing the year at 362,000 on my own pen. So a little bit more than what I did
Yeah.
last year. I made more money in 2024. I had a really good issue rate. Made I won't say exactly how much, just in case the IRS is listening, but we made about almost 40 grand more in 2024 than we did in 2023, and I didn't work that much harder. And so the I was confronted with the reality of I could have done more, you know.
Can I stop you for a second? Did you have to
Yeah.
ask a boss to if you could get a 40 grand raise in 2024? Like that's,
No,
dude, how beautiful is that? You're just like, I want to do more. And you end up making like it, where else can you do that?
I know, and the thing that I've come to learn in the insurance industry is as you get better at this, it takes less time to get the same result, and it takes less effort to get even a bigger result. And so, when I'm reflecting on the year, one of the things that I do on a weekly basis is I look at what worked, what didn't, what am I going to change, what am I going to keep doing,
Yeah.
and the thing that I am going to change is one, I'm gonna buy more leads. I'm thinking of just doubling my lead investment. Um, right
That's what
now,
I'm
I'm
doing.
I'm investing about $700 to $800 a week, and if I double that to 1,600 or even 2 grand per week, basically, I just have to sell one or two more extra policies to get in the green.
Isn't that math beautiful? How long did
It's
it take you to
simple math.
realize that? Because it took me longer than I'd care to admit to just
Same.
kind of swallow that and be like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, one additional policy can pay for double the lead order? Do I think I can do one more sale per
Yeah.
lead
With twice
batch?
the amount of leads. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no brainer, and then it's like you're going to pick up more along the way, and it's going to more
hmm
than double your income.
I think the thing that held me back from doing that, because I've known that since 2023, basically, because the year prior to that in 2022, I don't even think I cracked 300 grand. And so in 2023, I increased my lean investment. In 2024, I got complacent, bro. Like it's easy to, if you're making 150, 200 grand a year or more even, and be like, all right, I don't really need to work more.
Yep.
Now I could, but I don't need to. And that is a really freeing feeling. You
Yeah.
know, I think a lot of people. I mean, you can't even relate to that if you're in a W-2 job. If you're salaried or hourly, you just make the same amount. You know, for
Yeah.
putting in a certain amount of hours. And so, I was talking to a buddy of mine. We'll probably have to have him as a guest on in the future. His name's Jake Van Dusen, and he's a young gun, 28. He's a dad, married. He retired his wife early, and I was talking to him, and dude blew my numbers out of the water, bro. Like we do the same job. He sells insurance over the phone, and he wrote 700,000 last year on his own pen. We've been in the industry the same amount of time. We sell the same products. We buy the same leads. He just does more of
Yeah.
it. And him and I were talking, and he's like, "Dude, we should go for 800,000. We should shoot for 800." I was like, "Holy crap, man! I haven't even cracked 400 grand yet on my own pen, and you're trying
Yeah.
trying to get me to double it." But we broke down the numbers, and if you wanted, so just to paint a quick picture, this is a short rabbit hole tangent. Like you as an insurance agent, if you're at, we'll just say a starting contract rate of 80%, which if you're writing more than 200 grand a year, you're
You're not
not
going
at
to
an
be there
80.
long. Yeah.
You're not going to be there long. But if you're just at an 80% contract rate and you sold $800,000 on your own pen, assuming 80% of it issued, so not even all of it, on the advance alone, bro, you're making 384 on the
Yep.
advance alone. That's not including back end commission, which comes in months 10, 11, and 12. So you're
Yep.
really over 400 grand in commission. And I mean, if you're spending 50K a year on leads, I mean, you're still at an insane income level.
Yeah.
And I mean, what could you do with 300,000 in a year or 400,000 in a year? It's hard to imagine if you've never made that. And so
Yeah.
setting a target and having the metrics behind it are important. But the numbers he's running and the numbers I'm probably going to end up doing are spending about 2 grand to 2,500 a week on leads and setting your target at 15K in premium. If you do
Each
15
week.
grand a week, if you do 15 grand a week, you're at 800,000 in a year. And you may have weeks that are a little bit less. You may have weeks that are more. I mean, there's plenty of agents doing 20, 25 grand in a week. It
Yep.
just takes discipline and consistency and choosing to invest in those leads. And I think the hard pill you have to swallow is if you're on the hook for 2 grand a week in leads, it kind of forces you into a corner where you have to sell.
Yeah.
You have
You
to,
do.
because I mean, you're spending 100,000 in a year on leads, and that's a big bill you got to pay. But if you're making 600,000 on that, because keep in mind, Jake's at a 110. He might even be at a 115, so he's making a good amount more.
Yeah.
So it's all possible. It's all possible. You got to have. I think if you're setting goals, I love the idea of a SMART goal. You know, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Right?
Yeah. I was going to get into that.
We should.
Because,
We should.
you know, I similar to yourself, you know, I didn't, before coming to Symmetry, I was not setting very good goals, to be honest. And I
Yeah.
kind of went through Symmetry University, which I say kind of with a tongue in cheek, right? Because no one's making you go to class or anything, right? But we got a book you read every month. And there's a lot of business schools being taught by classes being taught by professors who've never actually run a business. So, who do you want to listen to? And it was when we read Jack Canfield's Success Principles. He's like, that was such a game changer for me because I realized I was setting goals all wrong.
Hmm.
You'll see people, it's, the new year. I don't think New Year's resolutions are super helpful, but they'll be like, I'm
Right.
going to be healthier this year. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Um, you know, and after reading, Canfield, it's like a third party should be able to measure your goals, someone who is not you, right? So
Mm.
I'm going to weigh, 200 pounds by June 5th of 2025,
Yeah.
right? I can step on a scale and somebody else can tell me whether I hit that goal or not.
Mm.
I think that's really important because if you have these nebulous goals, it can be very hard to figure out if did you even hit what it was that you were trying to hit. Do you know what you were trying to achieve?
Yeah.
And so SMART, I think that's a great acronym to break it down. But really, if a third party can measure it and it's at a specific date in time, good job setting that goal. Um,
Mm.
and I wanted to, I know we've talked about this before, but on the recruiting side of things,
Yeah.
so you got a big production goal. Have you thought about dabbling back into recruiting? And I want to say one other thing, because a lot of times we've talked about some of these IMOs that, you know, it's an MLM at the end of the day, right? Like you come in, you need to recruit 15 people so that you can go through their contact list. That is not Symmetry. Um, and it took me a while to realize that. Like I was definitely on mark a little bit, kind of like this guy's, making money off of my work. Like I don't know but then once you see the flip side of it, and like we got to have him on here, but one of my very good friends, I've mentioned him before, Noah Dondero,
Yeah.
he I don't want to spoil his story too much, but he was in a good spot, right? He was in a good spot to go high in a great company, and he ended up making the leap to come to Symmetry instead.
Hmm.
And seeing him find success and helping families, making a great income of his own by doing stuff that I was helping teach him, dude, that is better than any commission I've ever received. The feeling that gave me.
Yeah.
And so for me, recruiting has turned into a bit of a like, how many other people can I show the light to? Um,
Yeah.
and
That's what it
that's,
should be.
yeah, but that's kind of what's been pushing me on the recruiting side. I'm curious if that bug has bitten you.
Oh, dude, I've been bitten by the bug numerous times. I think the mistake that I made early on, I was a pretty immature leader, young guy, and I mean, I started recruiting when I was 21 or 22. Dude, I didn't know jack. I didn't know anything about how to lead people, and I am not ashamed to admit that I was leading from a selfish standpoint. We should do a deep dive too, maybe on another episode of like the pitfalls of recruiting
Yep.
because there's plenty. And I was recruiting man initially to make more money, and that was it. Clear, cut, simple. I wanted to hire somebody because I was going to make an override, and that is a big mistake because our first core value, bro, is relationships matter and people come first. And I essentially had what we call commission breath when talking to people about the opportunity. And so I was leading from a selfish standpoint, and one of the byproducts of that is I wasn't leading people to help them make the income they want. I was more so telling them what they needed to do so that I could make an override. And I mean, they were going to make money too, but it's a different, what's the word? I just didn't have like healthy intentions with it. Like the way you're talking about recruiting, bro, you're changing somebody's life, and we have that opportunity. I mean, the insurance industry's changed my life dramatically. I have
Me
no
too.
clue what I would be doing right now if I wasn't with Symmetry. Like I just don't know. So I do need to recruit because the industry we're in is the highest. It makes the most millionaires every year. more than any other industry. And there's really only two ways you can make more money in this job. It's build a team and scale, or you can hire an admin and a dialer and a production assistant, and then you just sell a crap ton of insurance. I mean, you could make $1 million in a year. People have done it, but you got to sell an issue over $1 million to do that.
Right.
And so it's like, which one's easier? I think building a team is easier.
Yeah.
More
And
people are becoming millionaires doing it that way.
and you might crack 1 million on your own pen, but getting to 2, 3, 5, 10, you can't. I mean, you'd have to be writing a lot of really big annuities to get to 10 million a year on your own pen.
Yeah,
And even still, that would be I think there might be a little bit of luck involved with hitting that number.
for sure. A lot
But
would have to go
absolutely.
right. And I think the big difference, and so this is, I'm kind of riding the fence and deciding what I want to do. And the reason I'm not fully decided yet is because if I'm going to recruit, I want to do it right, and I want to go balls to the walls, like full speed ahead. I don't want to half-ass it, you know?
Yeah.
And recruiting is building a business. Selling insurance is kind of like a job where you're your own boss.
Right.
And having a job versus having a business, two totally different
So
animals.
different. Yeah.
Like the job is different. Your week to week tasks are different. Your investment on a monthly basis looks different, and the conversations you're having are different. Your skill set's different. You got to know how to communicate with people and read people and help them uncover their why. Because, like John Maxwell says, he doesn't motivate people; he finds motivated people.
Yeah.
And knowing how to do that, and then also steward that, that's something I'm learning, man. That's something I'm learning. I also don't like doing things I suck at. And so having to commit to something that I will have to get good at is it's a lot, man. But there's so many young people winning that I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm sitting on the sidelines in a big way by not recruiting, you know? So
And I mean, I don't want to push you, but
push me, bro.
you're just I mean, dude, you've been a great kind of mentor to me, to be honest. Like, Mark is awesome, but when I told him my production goals, he was like, you need to talk to Elijah because he's
Mm,
around your age. And you've been so helpful, right? Even still, sometimes I texted you the other day. I'm like, all right, I'm coming back. I'm turning my leads back on. Like, what do you think about this? I think you are not giving yourself enough credit for how good you are at this and how
mm.
much you have to offer people. And so I would, I would, I'll put it this way. I would join your team if I wasn't, so committed to Mark. Um, and the fact that you have the humility to look back and be like, hey, I was in the wrong headspace. I was looking at this more about myself, not as much for the people on my team. As a third party, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but that to me is someone who is a great leader, right? Like all the
Mm.
time, I have to tell my guys and some females that like I was wrong. I was wrong about this. Like
Yeah.
here's how I would do it this time. We
Mm.
spent a lot of time talking to Mark. I'm learning from him, right? Like he is
Yeah.
the best leader to learn from, and it's
He's
certainly been
awesome.
a evolving process. When I first started, it was like, oh, dude, really? You're asking me about this? Like I've told you this already. But everybody's human. I probably asked Mark the same thing 15 times, and then
Oh yeah.
asked you 3 times, and then the third time you told me, I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Dude,
Um,
when I was brand new, I called my upline Grant probably 12 times a day, bro. And I'm not even exaggerating. That sounds insane. And but I did. I did. And it wasn't just to like, hey, what are you doing now? Like I was asking him questions because I was hungry and I was trying to figure this thing out. And I was just nagging him to get every answer that I could so that I could figure it out. One mistake that I made too with recruiting. So one thing I want to dive into, Xander, is like going into what's something you maybe messed up on or like you're going to change
yeah.
in 2025 that you maybe didn't do the way you wanted to in 2024, or like something you could have done better. But one thing that I've made a mistake in the past, and a lot of people do this with recruiting, is they'll just hire anybody. They'll throw out a wide net. If you're not a felon, if you're 18, and if you can get an insurance license, we'll bring you on. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the philosophy I adopted. And I just hired bad people, had chargebacks roll up to me, people quit, people who weren't hungry, they were just trying to do the bare minimum. And I think in the same way that we have like a niche with what we sell, like we're focused on mortgage protection, you can have a niche for your team. Um,
Yep.
and kind of finding your tribe, or we call it your core four. Like if you have four killers on your team who are hungry, motivated, humble, teachable, you only really need four people to go take over the world, because
Yeah.
you can get those four people to an agency owner or the top contract level. Those four people can find their tribe and build their team. And some of the, I mean, the biggest agency owner in our company, uh, Marshall Wayland, he might have five or six people direct to him initially, and he's built one of the biggest organizations. And so
Right.
it's about going deep with your people versus going really wide. And yeah, that's if we decide to jump off the deep end with recruiting, that's going to be a change that I make, is
Right.
hiring specific people that are on the same wavelength, who want the same things, so that we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. It's like good to great, you know. You got to have the right people on the bus and the right seats in order for it to operate well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, for me, really, I've thought about this one a lot because there's a part of me that's like, hey, I just want to recruit people that are around my age group. I can, relate to them more. But
Yeah.
I don't, the more that I thought about that, I've got one gentleman on my team. His name is Timon Atmar. He is a veteran in the software sales industry, and I mean, the things that he says to me make me laugh so hard. And he's a good bit older than I am. That being said, when he comes to me, he'll come to me asking for answers to stuff, and it's not there's age doesn't really matter, is what I've learned,
Yeah.
because he is a absolute pleasure to work with. So I think really my biggest requirement is hiring people who aren't energy vampires.
Mm.
So
Dig into that. What is an energy vampire for the people who haven't read Energy Bus?
yeah, so
What is an energy vampire?
if you haven't read Energy Bus, read it because it synthesizes a lot of the self help books down into a really simple concept that a middle schooler could understand. They tell it through a story. Um, but energy vampires are people who drain energy from you. They're negative. They're always looking at the downside and things. Like you could give them $100 and they'd be pissed it wasn't 200. Um, that's the kind of people. And unfortunately, with the rate that we're running at, it's going to be very difficult if you've got a bunch of people who are adding positive things to your life. It's going to be very difficult to take someone who's an energy vampire and turn them into not that. Um, I've hired a couple of those, and there's always problems. They want to spend an
Mm.
hour and a half on the phone venting. And in my earlier days of recruiting, I would do that because I like to think that I'm a giver, a nice person, and I wanted to help them because I was like, that can't be a fun place to be. This might sound a little cavalier, but that's not your problem. They've got to do that work on themselves, and I'm happy to give them resources. Like if they come to me and they're like, I want to say this with the caveat: if they come to me and they're like, in so many words, I am an energy vampire. I'm working on fixing it. Do you have any recommendations? I got all the time in the world for that, right?
Mm.
But if it's these leads suck, the products suck, the clients, whatever, it's just all complaints. That's going to drain you as a leader, and it's going to be there's
What
going to
can you do
be
with that? What
right.
can you do with
It's
that? Yeah.
hard, and so I'm not sure what the best process is to screen that out. Um, but that's really my main thing because I think in 2024 I spent a lot of time trying to change people, and you can't change anyone who doesn't want to change themselves.
No, no, not at all, man. So, what are on the sales side of things?
Yeah.
Was there anything you wasted money on? Was there anything that you maybe didn't tap into fully, or that you're going to do different in this year as far as sales goal or as sales go to sell more than you did last year? Because I mean, that's always the at least one goal. Let me sell more than I did last year, and that's gonna
Right.
vary person to person as far as like specificity. But what about the sales side of things, man?
Yeah. So, I guess one thing I want to preface all this with is I don't look at things as a waste anymore. I like to look at them as lessons,
Hmm,
because
great
you just
perspective.
you're investing money to learn something. So in 2024, I hit my first couple 20K months of mortgage protection, and a lot of the families that I was helping with mortgage protection, we ended up doing a simplified issue IUL, which is a great product. And I was sitting there and I was like, man, I kind of got this mortgage protection thing down. Like, why don't I just help people with IULs all the time? Felt a little cooler, right? A little bit of ego. I was like, oh, I
Oh
can
yeah,
think about myself as a financial services representative and not just, an insurance sales guy. Um, there's some pitfalls to IULs. They're making the rounds on social media,
yep.
and people, it's like when they come into the doctor, they've done some research on WebMD, they're like, I've got cancer, right? And you're like, well, why'd you come to me then? And so I ran into a couple of those people who thought they'd outsmarted the system, right? I'm going to put $100 or $50 a month into this, and then I'm going to get 100 grand in 2 months from the carrier. It's like, that's not how this works.
Yep.
Um, and people would lie to me about their health. No matter how much I told them that the carriers can see everything, they could have had a cancer diagnosis 2 weeks ago, and they'd be like, no, I'm in great health. Um, and then they'd get too excited about the numbers. Also, they would see it and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I can have 100 grand in a year. Yeah, I can do 2K a month. And then maybe the first payment would draft, and they got approved after a month or two of underwriting, and then the second month came and it's like that was unsustainable. Even though I talked to them about, like, hey, this is going to come out every month. We want this to be a comfortable. The last thing we want to do is put you into something that you can't afford.
Yep.
That's not going to help anybody. So that was a big learning process. I've come back to
Mm.
mortgage protection, did a complete 180. I love the product. I believe in it. And along the way, you're going to talk to some people they're already in a good spot. And when you find someone like that, I touched on this earlier, FIF reset them. You can do it yourself if you want. But you can refer. I love the posture of being like, I do mortgage protection, right?
Yeah.
This isn't my specialty, but I've got someone who can help you. I think you're good on the mortgage protection side. I got someone who can maybe provide some value somewhere else if that's something you're open to. I love
Yeah.
that posture. And then you just edify the expert, and they get on and they're like, I can't believe these numbers are real. Um, and so yeah, that's my that was the one thing that was my biggest lesson from 2024 is like, ego's the enemy. I think I've said it on every single podcast we've done. But thinking that mortgage protection wasn't as flashy as maybe IULs were, and
Mm.
that was the biggest lesson for me. And coming back full spin, Symmetry's built a $500 million a year business on mortgage protection. Well, why am I trying to reinvent the wheel?
I've been there, bro. Been there, done that. I think my biggest the two mistakes that maybe stand out to me the most are that I didn't spend more on marketing. Marketing gets you in front of more people to talk to, and spending double the amount on marketing doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna work double the amount of time. And I think that's what I was scared of is I had hit burnout before, and being self-employed, it doesn't always take a long time to hit
Right.
burnout, but I just wanted to stay as far away from that as possible. And so I was, I don't want to say I was scared with my investment, but I was scared with my investment. And uh, I didn't invest double, even though I knew I would make more because I was afraid that, oh man, if I spend double, I'm going to have to run twice the amount of appointments, and I don't really want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I got complacent because I wasn't in a position where I really needed to.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, especially young guys, man, we come into this industry, we see that there's no cap on income. We've never made 10 grand in a month before. And so we're just hungry, bro. Hungry to get after it and achieve and be on the leaderboards and get all of these accolades. And I think that's awesome. Um, But once you get acclimated and you know what you're capable of and you know what it takes to make 100 or 200 or 300,000 in a year, you can kind of get comfortable in a pattern of doing the same thing every week. And that's what I did, man. I made a great income. I made more than I did in 2023, but I didn't really push myself to get uncomfortable. And I had a conversation with my wife, man. And there's a reason the Bible describes wisdom as a woman. But Maggie sat me down and she was basically like, "Hey, I feel like you're not tapping into your full potential. I feel like you're giving it like 70%." I was like, "Shit, that's a hard reality I gotta face because you're not wrong, and I can be doing more. So what am I gonna change? One is I'm gonna spend more on marketing because that'll back me into a corner and
Yeah.
essentially force me to get hungry again and really push myself. And then I think the second thing, dude, is like we have our niche or niche with mortgage protection. But like you said, not everybody needs that. We've got a great program. We call it the FIF Reset Program. It stands for Financial Information Form. In a nutshell, it's referring more complicated or advanced market cases like annuities, index universal life, infinite banking, or as we coin it, debt-free life. You can reap the benefits of helping your clients with that without doing any of the work. So essentially, all you do is you ask a couple key questions to uncover whether or not they would be a good fit for something outside of mortgage protection, which is very easy and simple to handle that need. But
Yep.
you can refer that business to a subject matter expert who that's all they specialize in. They're the experts. They know the answers to every question a client's going to ask about annuities or participation rates or how this participating whole life works. And a lot of new people don't do those products because they're scared of them,
Yep.
because they're more complicated. And you can essentially make the introduction. So, like if I just helped Miss Betty with some whole life, and I ask a couple questions like, "Hey, do you have any old 401ks collecting dust or sitting around that aren't doing anything?" Or if your mortgage and all the other debts were paid off, would retirement be more comfortable? Or are you afraid of market loss? You can just ask a couple key questions that pique some interest, and then edify the subject matter expert as the person who knows all the pertinent info about these products, and then they can go help that client. And for making that introduction, you do an app split, and you can make essentially passive income without running the application or yourself or doing any of the back office or follow up. Somebody else does that for you. You can just focus on the mortgage protection. And dude, that was a really big missed opportunity for me in 2024. I dropped the ball on that because, like I said, I got in a comfortable pattern. Us insurance guys, like we can just get comfortable doing the same thing every week and we get really, really good at it. And then even adding just a small change, like asking 5 other questions in the
Yep.
appointment to book a FIF, it's easy to not do, but it's just as easy to do.
Yep.
And there's a guy on our team named Michael Mushlin who started out doing mortgage protection. He really had a heart, and I would even dare say a calling for the advanced market stuff. And relatively new guy. I think he's been doing this for maybe a year.
Yep.
And he became a subject matter expert. And Mark talked about it on really briefly on episode 3. Michael Mushlin sold a $700,000 annuity in November that issued in December. Dude's going to make like 35 G's
Yep.
on that. And that was an FIF. So the agent he split it with is also making a 5-figure commission. And so all you have to do is ask a couple questions, and those marketing, and then doing more of those FIFs and leveraging the people around me
Yeah.
are the 2 main things I'm going to focus on. And then if we go hard with recruiting, that'll be a third.
Awesome, man. Um,
Yeah, dude.
Let me see. I mean, for myself, I'm also doubling my lead investment. I get back in a couple of days, so I'm going up to 40 leads a week. We've got a guy in the company. We should probably. I know we keep saying we should have him on. We got a lot of people that we want to have on here.
We do.
Um, he's really set the pace. He's the Roger Bannister of Symmetry, right? Like there were a couple people who had come in, and there's actually really one who had done. She did three 100K months in a row. Um, Ashley, Richard, and we should probably also have her on here.
We
Um,
need to have her on here.
she's a goat, but Dylan Crane is the individual I'm talking about, and he came in and he hasn't even been here 8-9 months yet, and he's done 100. He did 180K like his third month here. And the way he's doing that is, yeah, he is very good on the phones, but he's also buying more leads than basically anybody I know. Dude's
Yeah.
dropping like 4 or 5 grand a week on leads, but if you're making 125K a month, that's a drop in the bucket.
Isn't
Um,
that wild that that's possible?
it's absolutely possible, and it's opened my eyes to be like kind of similar to yourself. I was realizing I can be doing more. So
Mm.
I'm also doubling my lead investment. I am shifting my recruiting posture a little bit. I was had interviews mixed in between my appointments. Some of them wouldn't show up. Some of them would be, some of these agents who have a lot of baggage. I'm batching those, so I'm going to do group interviews,
Okay.
and
Nice.
then
That's a big change. That's a really big change.
it is a big change. We'll test it out. Like I said earlier, everything's a learning experience. Um, and really just my main goal is going to be being a traffic cop, right? Like get people plugged in and then set the pace. Because I see a lot of people who focus very heavily on the recruiting, but then the people that they recruit, that's what they see you doing. And so they just recruit more. And that's not what I want to build for people. I talk to people about like,
Mm.
you can make 20, 30, 40, 50K a month here if you do it right. And so telling them that, then they see me doing it, and then they want to teach other people how to do it. That's kind of the three punch,
I like that.
that I'm planning on running for 2025. Um,
Dude, that's huge. You know, they say the best leaders are the best promoters. You don't want to be the answer end all be all to everybody, but you want to know who has the answers to questions because if you're not a good traffic cop, dude, you have a team of at least 15 people, you're going to spend hours every single week
can't
fielding
do that.
questions.
Yep.
And it just takes away time from the actual high dollar activity, which is hiring people and selling policies.
Right.
So getting good at pointing people in the right direction. It'll also be a natural way that you identify self starters because you don't want
Yes.
to find people that need hand holding or you have to have a counseling call before every dial session to help get them in the right mindset.
Yeah.
You want to find people who just kind of wake up ready to rock and roll.
Yep.
And your job is to point them in the right direction and help kind of direct their efforts versus having to handhold them every step of the way, which is
Yeah.
one of the other pitfalls I fell into.
Yeah, and that kind of gets into a little bit of the energy vampire thing again of like, yeah, you
Mm.
cannot be maybe the first couple times someone's getting on the phones, if they need a little pep talk, fine, I'm
Hmm.
happy to be there. I phone weighed 1,000 pounds when I first started as well, but if they've been here for a couple months and they're calling you up before they start dialing, it's like, brother or sister, we've we've gone over this before. You can do this. The phone only weighs 1,000 pounds until you start making some calls, and yeah, you might get some objections, but you're also going to get some yeses. um,
Mm.
Before we end, I want to, the other thing that happened to me in 2024 is I felt like I was a little bit one dimensional. I was, I don't know, if it's a good trait or a bad trait, but I can get like tractor beam focused on something. And I did that with this, which I think helped me accelerate to the pace I wanted to get to. But then I also, fitness has always been a huge part of my life. I found that, I wasn't as regular going to the gym as I have been for the last decade. I wasn't spending enough time with my wonderful girlfriend as I should have been. I wasn't spending enough time with friends outside of Symmetry as I probably should have been. And so, and there's a couple other things as well I'll go into in a second, but I'm curious, outside of Symmetry, outside of insurance, outside of sales, outside of building a team, do you have anything in 2025 that if you're comfortable sharing, that you're
Oh,
like,
for sure.
this is something that I want to work on that's completely unrelated?
Yeah. The big one for me, man, is I'm trying to ditch social media.
Okay.
I love, and I might not ditch it 100%, but I love Instagram, but I will allow it to just not derail me, but just like derail my focus. It's real easy to get into a habit of checking your phone first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
looking at your email, looking at texts, all this stuff, and it's like the your phone can be like an amazing tool, but it can also be the thing that prevents you from doing what you need to do. And
Yep.
so, one thing I'm doing is I'm trying to limit my social media intake to kind of regulate my dopamine. I feel
Yeah.
like I sound like Andrew Huberman right now, but getting
You
my
got to sound
dopamine in
like.
check is going to be super important. I want to read more. I only read like 10 or 12 books last year, and I feel like I could do more. I wasn't really consistent with that. And also, man, the gym. The gym for me is also huge. I feel like when I'm more disciplined with my fitness and my dieting, I'm better at everything else. I'm
Yep.
better at communicating with my wife. I'm better at working when I'm working and not working when I'm not. And you want to stack those small wins, um, and doing that on a weekly and a monthly basis through habit forming is the main thing that I'm focused on outside of symmetry. Because if you're disciplined, I mean, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you half-ass your workouts, if you half-ass the things that you're eating, if you're not disciplined with doing what you say you're going to do, whether that's reading 10 pages a day or I'm not going to check my phone before 8 a.m. or what have you, you're going to be that much better at the things you are focused on. And
Yeah.
so those are a couple. I'm still fine tuning what my actual concrete smart goals are for 2025.
Yep.
But one of the main ones, man, is just kind of reining in my focus and not being so addicted to this thing.
I love it.
So,
Yeah, it's funny. I deleted most of the social media apps, and I found that, kind of like you said, I was clearer headspace. It's easy. You know, I used to be a software engineer. The algorithms are really good, right? Like
oh yeah,
what you spend a little more time on, what you interact with, whether good or bad, um, they're going to show you more of that, and it's gonna get your attention, right? Like that is exactly what it is designed to do, is market your attention
oh yeah,
to
and then
companies.
keep you coming back too.
Yes, and so yeah, it's cheap dopamine. A lot of the Stoics talk about, like, wishing for an easy life is, kind of the sign of cowardice, right? Like you want to do hard
Mm,
things, and in doing hard things, you're gonna get that dopamine. It's harder to get, so people don't chase it as much sometimes. Um, but yeah, I re-downloaded Instagram to start doing some clipping of our podcast, and I
yeah,
found that I would do that, and then I would be going through stuff on my own feed, and it's a bad habit, and I find that it. What are you scrolling for? That's the question
right,
I always
right.
come back to, is like, what are you looking to get out of spending time on this? Um,
Mm,
and when you think about it, it's like, what the heck am I trying to get? I've already everything that I need and want is already in front of me, and I need to kind of appreciate that more.
mm.
So that's an interesting one. Me personally, I've been being in a country that speaks Spanish is kind of. I took Spanish in high school, and
Me
I
too.
really enjoyed it. I was pretty good at it, and then I kind of let that fall by the wayside. And my younger brother works. He's a mechanical engineer. He works for an HVAC company, so he'll be on job sites sometimes. And I used to be better than he was at Spanish. Not anymore, because he's practicing at work, and it's made me be like, you know what, this is something that I want to bring back into my life. So I'm going to
Dude,
work
I
on my
love that.
Spanish again. Um, and then totally at a left field, I want to start playing piano. I took it when I was a lot younger, but I've really enjoyed this as a creative outlet. But like I said, I felt like I was a little one dimensional.
Dude,
Everything I thought about and talked about was building a business, sales, insurance, and having something that is just, fitness is great, but like you don't want to only be a gym bro, meathead. Um, and so, like, a musical outlet, even if it's just 15 minutes a day. Um,
That's
is
huge.
also something that I'm going to incorporate into my routine.
I freaking love that, bro. One thing I forgot to mention that I'm super focused on and did more of this past year than I ever have is my golf game. Really focused on getting good at golf. It's a fun challenge because I kind of suck at golf, but it's so
I don't know if
freaking
I'd say
addictive.
that. We got to play
I
together in Costa Rica. You're not that bad.
I want to get better. So that's something I'm focused on. Because I mean, with this job, man, we can travel all over the world. I've gotten to play golf in Hawaii and Cabo and Costa Rica, and I just want to lean into that a little bit more. I love the piano, dude. That sounds freaking awesome. You might have to download like Duolingo or something and start
Yep.
your streak to get the Spanish flow going.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
Get
maybe
you get you
we'll.
some Spanish leads. Spanish.
We've got them. We've got to
We
bring it
got
full
them.
circle. Well, awesome. I feel like that's kind of a good stopping point for this episode. Um, thank you to everybody tuning in. Leave us some comments, stuff you want to hear more of, less of. Any recommendations you got for us, we're open to it. And unless you had anything else you wanted to say.
No, I think that's a good bow on it. Everybody have a great week, a happy new year. Set some smart goals, throw your resolutions out the window, and hone your focus on what it is you want. Don't let the stimulus of the external world dictate how you spend your time. So,
I
with
love it.
that, have a wonderful weekend. Peace out.
See y'all. See you next week.